How has the program helped you an outcome with a before and after impact?
Of course, your program. I think what has actually given us, I think we've got a lot of clarity in how we position ourselves. Earlier, we were all over the place trying to understand, is it a garage story? Is it a supply chain story? Is it a EV story? It's apparently none of those. We are actually a technology company which is aggregating garages and building technologies for those garages to make them more efficient. And an outcome of all that, we are actually getting other value added propositions on top of this. So I think number one, the biggest outcome is clarity and articulation in how to position our company. I think that was the biggest before and after impact that we saw. A lot more investors now understand what we do after we've got clarity from this program as opposed to what it was before. I think our conversation was never about spare parts, Josephine, with any investor, but people kept getting back to spare parts and how different are we from somebody like a Go mechanic when we weren't. I think the articulation, the fact that we are a technology platform and completely B2B was not getting very easily understood. But after multiple conversations, filling up the entire murals, it gave us a lot of insights and probably gave us a flow in how to tell these investors that we are not what you think.
So what are some of the things that you don't know that you didn't know? It's like a blind spot kind of thing.
I think one of the biggest things is that with your program, we started documenting and doing a lot of those things using murals and Trello and all that stuff. Earlier, all of that was just in our heads. But the moment you're putting it down on paper, a lot more clarity was getting established. So things that we also missed kind of suddenly became very clear. Oh, this is what we thought of, but never, it didn't look that good on paper. Now it does. A lot of those iterations and documenting this process has actually helped us. And some of them were obvious, some of them weren't. And the way you actually connected those dots for us, for example, when we are doing the business model canvas, how the value proposition came up from the first few classes that we did and how it entirely ties together with the costs and the key partners. I think that was very, very, very clear when we started documenting it. People don't have the clarity. They just keep going all over the place. I think what bottom line is, you may have a great idea. You may have a great execution team, but if you don't know the direction to deploy or what to be done, I think you're just going to be a headless chicken, just go all over the place. I think the direction with an execution mindset is important. Clarity of, like you said, right, what Nandan also said, you need to be able to prioritize what you're doing to actually move forward. And that's something which was missing in our initial strategy and initial months of growth.
So why did so many startups does that? Do you think it's just they don't know what they don't know, or do you think it's more about like there's no tools or whatever out there, or they just thought that's how it's supposed to be?
I think a lot of it is based on two things. One is you need to do a lot of research to actually identify the perfect product fit. There is no perfect product fit, but I would say there's a lot of research which is currently missing. A startup thinks it's a great idea, let's do it. They don't talk to enough people, number one. Number two, accelerators like in E4 or mentors like you provide that clarity earlier on. I'm 100% sure that if I didn't, even though I had a Shell E4 and I didn't have a Josephine, I would still be doing what I was doing 6 months back, because Shell E4 does not give us direction or the tools the way you have done it, right? So that's important. I think we need those and the core. The reason why startups don't know what to do is because they don't identify the right mentor earlier on. They don't do enough research. They keep going around in circles because they absolutely have no direction. There's nobody to give them direction. And it's very important to choose the right mentor.
Okay, what about the framework? A lot of people with experience and mentorship running around.
See, the problem with that is, like I said, right, you have people who are willing to mentor, but I don't think they understand enough of the industry. I'll give you an example in our case. You did not approach our industry as an automotive business. You approached our industry as a platform business. And that completely changed the way we thought of our business as well. If you would have approached our business as an automotive business, we would still be talking spare parts and how to make that process efficient. Okay. Yeah. So I'm saying a lot of it also depends on how people, I think experience definitely matters, but also insights about that industry or what you're trying to build equally matters. You need to have knowledge of what you're doing, which is missing with a lot of other mentors that we've initially interacted with. I'll give you an example again. We talk to mentors that have been given to us. I'm not talking about coaches like you, and talking about internal mentors.
Yes.
All those mentors talk to us keeping only one perspective in mind. How does my business help Shell's business?
Correct.
So what happens is it becomes a conversation of how do I sell my lubricants on your platform? How do I do this? How do I do that? It does not help me as a business to grow because nobody tells me you're a platform business. Okay, you have so many garages. How many lubricants can you sell for us? It becomes a conversation like that.
Right.
So I think that's the problem with the mentors that we've had earlier.
So therefore,
But
the framework that frame it back to you as a business is important to have as a central, which is I said earlier, I said you need to have a central framework where you bring all this perspective and knowledge of mentors back as an ingredient, but process it through a framework of understanding, right?
correct, absolutely. I mean, you gave us those 6, 7 bunch of exercises to do, homework to do. I think that really helped us add more clarity because we were seeing what we were thinking, right? We were connecting the dots on a piece of paper, and that actually made a lot of sense. A lot of people don't do those workshops. It's only talk. People just talk about it.
Why was it worth doing it and taking the time? Because most founders, as you said, most of them are so busy and so many urgent firefighting, like I said in the beginning of the program. They can't commit the time. They always say they're too busy. How do you get them to see that it is so important to put in the time and effort and to do this?
Everything of value needs time and effort, both, Josephine. It cannot always be a give relationship. It has to be a give and take relationship, right? Now, for example, you are putting in the effort, taking out time to help us grow to a certain level and understand what we were doing. I think it just makes perfect sense. It's our baby, it's our business. If I'm giving birth to a baby and if I say, okay, it's going to grow on its own, it's obviously not going to happen. We have to take out that time to work on it. If we don't do it, I don't think we're going to succeed.
Why do you think it is better because I mean, I don't think I really give you an advice. It was more about giving you a framework and then coaching you as a process instead of giving you a direct advice, which is a lot of time most what happening, with advice giving and pointed solution giving.
I think self-discovery is the best way of learning, right? Or assisted discovery. You assisted us in or nudged us in the right direction, but I would say some sort of an assisted discovery model, which really helps us as opposed to listening to somebody else who's in the same industry. I think you need to co-discover this. For example, there were certain moments Prashant and I sat, reviewed those recordings and said, what Josephine said makes a lot of sense. We went back and tried that in practical scenarios. It really, really worked and changed the way garages all started onboarding. It changed the way garage started using our platform. So I'm saying that self-discovery, self-learning, that effort, I think that's the only way, Josephine. I don't think it's easy own. We need to have that self-discovery assisted model of, I would say, framework or whatever you just said.
Yeah, because only then, if you understand it, you will know how to do and execute it.
Correct. Unless we don't do it ourselves, we will never do it ourselves.
Yeah, if I tell you, you will not understand why why
exactly.
It should be.
The why would be missing. That why was needed to be discovered by ourselves for us to actually understand and the impact to be a lot more.
Can people just do some part of the module? Maybe they're weak in GTM, then they go do GTM only compared to the whole program. What's your thoughts about that?
See, nobody's used to doing homework anymore, right? Because we're already doing our stuff. So, but what we also realized, Josephine, is that everybody who came into this program has different levels of readiness.
Correct.
And our business model is very different from the people who are on this program. In some cases, people did it. In some cases, people didn't. But I also realized that it's not about us being busy. I go back to the same thing. It is for us, for SpareIT as a company, it was very, very important for us to get clarity on how we need to go to market, because we always knew that for us to get to 50,000 garages is the way forward. The reason we were at least tried to be very as diligent as possible and do all exercises is because it takes cost, time, effort to get to 50,000 garages. I want to do the right way. I have only one shot at this, right? We have one shot at this. So we might as well sit and go through this and understand how to do it right. Yeah, it might take us 6 months, but then when I go out there, I can probably do what I would do in 3 months as opposed to doing something I would have taken 18 months to do if I didn't know the way direction, if I didn't know the right direction.
So basically what you're saying is by committing to this 6 months program to do it properly, in that sense, you are actually saving time because you're actually accelerating and going faster because you know what you need to do.
Exactly. I think for me, the customer identification in the beginning, the customer segmentation that we did, that was key. And the business model canvas, because for me, the business model canvas showed how the other modules actually tied up and gave me, I would say, a holistic picture of the entire, why that customer segmentation was. I mean, when you did it individually, I knew it was steps to go to a larger thing. But when I saw the business model canvas come together and whatever we had worked over the last 6 months, all on that one sheet, suddenly made a lot of sense. Customer segmentation was very, very important for us to realize, because for us, garages was a key segment. But then the moment we realized it's platform, suppliers also are a key segment. But then from the suppliers, we have other things, right? We have distributors, suppliers, manufacturers, all the kind of, and that give us a great insight. Okay, fine. It's no longer just a spares story. It is a technology platform, and you have all these other key customers, but our flagship customer still remains the garage. So let's work with that first. I think that happened, and when we saw how it came out in the business model canvas, I think it was a big revelation for us.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I push you to say I want you to finish the business model canvas, especially for you, because that's when you see how everything gets connected for a platform.
Correct.
And unless you know what is the big picture, because the platform is operating at a market level, and then the market level is where you're orchestrating the different player. And unless you see how it's connected at the business model canvas level, you actually will not realize how is it supposed to work at the big picture level.
And that's what the business model canvas did for us. Finally, everything was like, it was like, when we saw the business model canvas.
Yes, I know.
That's why she made us do this customer segment. That is why she told us to do this. That is why she asked us to do these things. So that was what it was.
Yes. The moral of the story is whatever she asks you to do, you better do it.
Absolutely. A good question. I'm never going to question Josephine again. Why am I doing this? I mean, for me, customer segmentation, the business model canvas was absolutely great. But also the fact is that we weren't thinking of ourselves as a platform business at all. And now that we talk about platform business, then suddenly realize if you're a platform business, after looking at all those videos of yours, I kind of realized that for us, for the platform business to actually make money, or at least start making sense, is when you have scale.
Yes.
And that's when we started focusing on, okay, fine. We are not going to talk about revenue to any one of our investors. Our business model is very clear. When we reach that critical mass and scale, platform will automatically start making money. Then we can start looking at, revenue models, business models that we can use on the platform. But for us, it's important to get to that scale number, which we weren't very, I would say, convinced about initially, but today we are.
But what about the commercial model? Because that was also one that was missing, no? Even though you felt that you need critical scale, but you need to know also how that's going to work out for your investor. What's the
correct?
Problem?
We were always under the impression in our research phase that garages are never going to pay anything for any technology platform. But when we went through the entire module, putting it down, we kind of realized that this might just work. So when we went back and spoke to these garages were absolutely happy to pay a fixed price rather than a percentage of the sales that they do or the invoice.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that gave us a lot of clarity in terms of business model, that yes, it is definitely possible. But for that model to work, we still had to reach a critical mass, right? Now, for example, I was telling this to a couple of guys earlier. If I touch 50,000 garages and if I don't earn $1 from them per month, I don't deserve to be in this business.
Yeah.
How do I get that $1? $1 could be you pay me for, say, 50 job cards, you pay me $1, or you pay me $1 to get more customers. You can reach out to more customers using my CRM tool. It doesn't matter how that $1 comes, but I'm saying it then becomes a volume game. So I either increase 50,000 to 100,000, or I make that $1 to $2. So my revenue model has become very, very clear. I don't have to worry about transaction-based revenue anymore. I just have to look at acquisition and usage, two key variables in my entire strategy.
Yeah, to start with, but always remember it's an evolution, because you will have you always have to be 1-2 steps ahead of the next competition that's coming in anyway.
Correct.
Because you want to be the only player that's going to be standing. You don't want it to be when another player is going to come in with huge load of cash to acquire the same customer for nothing.
Correct.
The defensibility will be a problem, because like I said, when money is there to be made, you will have competition. So you need to be a few steps ahead in how you're designing the product function and features, how you focus on that will actually retain the customer.
One of the things that we've realized in the last 3 weeks is that I think we have a first mover advantage in ensuring that we have this EV segment plugged in terms of service infrastructure as compared to anybody else. And we want to see how to keep that moat around us, which also means that we train more garages, get more garages on board, tie up with the more. I mean, There's a lot of work to do, I know, but I think that's definitely a key for us.
Yeah. You're just increasing more defensibility from that perspective, but you can't have exclusivity anyway, and the market will expand. So when the market expands, there will be more players, The people that you tie up with, they will have competition, so they will need somebody else to be their partner. So all these things, as a market grow, will evolve. But the biggest advantage a market player had is the orchestration of those transactions, which is why the transaction volume on spares of delivery will always be important, and that's the reason why you can't miss that, because the business model itself is a perfect position for market to orchestrate that in the first place, and to basically make it more efficient, because that's really the inefficient of a fragmented market. Why was it important for Prashant and you, all the co-founders, go through the process together?
Well, actually, it's important to do together, but Prashant and I never did this together because he was always busy on the field doing operations, and I was the one doing these classes, and then we would probably catch up every single day after our session, and I would brief him and tell him, this is what Josephine said, this is what we do, and I would ensure he goes through that recording. Okay. So that's what happened. But I do believe that if both can't do together, Josephine, one of them has to be in this full time to understand this.
Yeah. What is the best way to leverage the maximum value out of this process and program?
I think you have to be very diligent, and you have to be absolutely on point and not miss deadlines when it comes to doing this homework, because I missed a couple of deadlines and I was feeling horrible. But the thing is, because I could have achieved so much more had I known how I had done those classes, right? Or those homework bits. Because one is, if you're getting on board with somebody like a Josephine, you have to be able to give time. Number one. And number two, you have to be on time to finish that homework, because only then this entire program makes sense. If you don't, like I said, right, once I did that business model canvas, I was like, damn, it was that good. Listen, now I can actually look at how I can scale. And I actually have answers today, what I didn't have, Josephine. I think you have to, if you're going to get part of this program, any other program, if you're not ready to commit your time, you shouldn't be part of it. But diligently, not just be part of that and move on, but diligently do the job. I think doing is more important than believing. That's how I would say. I would say talk less, listen more, do most.
So, and the reason why now you have answer to the things that you didn't have before, it was because you now fundamentally understand how everything's get connected. So it's so actually help you in deciding, is in your decision making. At the end of the day, it's about deciding, correct?
Correct. Decisions definitely matter, the choices that we make. I think we not been through this entire 6 months. I think the decisions, the way we are progressing today would have been completely different than what we probably would have progressed without this program.
Yeah, which is why I said in the beginning also, 3 degrees of difference, you're completely in a different direction.
Correct.
I think I should rename this to call the signal that makes the 3-degree difference. After the signal and the noise, there's so much noise.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great name. No, in fact, I am writing an article on what founders should do in the first 1 year of their journey. And I'm going to have a segment there which says, quote you on that in that article and share that with you for your blessings. I'm just going to say that, the 3 degree that makes a difference. And I'm going to talk about, you need to get on board with a program from Josephine, which gives you clarity or the right signals to move in a direction, to make that decision.